Welcome, podcast fans. It's time for the What's Up Bro podcast show presented by j&j Production Studios, the home for all your entertainment needs. All kinds of great topics discussed every week, a variety of different themes offered, special guest appearances, prize giveaways, and so much more. Stay tuned. And now, here are your hosts, Sam Crow and Big Hoss.
Well, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Wednesday for you all. We are coming in still the early days of August. We are still thriving in the summertime, but as noted, we are seeing some shift change. Everybody's getting ready for fall and surprisingly winter. A lot of places are stocking up for Christmas already, but I don't want to talk about that. That's a whole mood bringer down, brings me down. So, but we have today another exciting interview. You guys know we've been doing a slew of those. And we are actually, let me just shift gears again. I spoke too soon. Oh, no, I didn't. Never mind. Just the cat. I'm like, I thought it was quiet here. So we have another great interview today. We want to welcome to the show, making his first appearance here, and hopefully not his last. Of course, we try not to scare everybody behind the scenes. So we'll have to do a behind the scenes shot at some point. But please welcome to the show and a round of applause to David Bedford, everybody. Hello. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show. Glad you could join us on this lovely day. I'm not sure how lovely it is for you, but you know,
just in the middle of a rainstorm, so
perfect. Another perfectly UK day, which is an average norm. Which you know,
quelle surprise.
Well, exactly. That's what I say. If you come to Liverpool, you don't get a sunburn; you just rust.
Pretty much. Now, we got some interesting things we're going to talk with David. So, David, give us a little background about you, what's your interest, what you do, and maybe what we're going to chat a bit about today for the folks that maybe haven't heard or don't know.
Okay, so for the last 26 years, I've been researching and writing about the Beatles. I published 9 different books. First one came out in 2009 called Liverpool, Birthplace of the Beatles. Which was just, I spent 9 years working on it. Only 2 of those years with a publisher.
Wow.
So it was something to do. And for me, just seeing my book on a bookshelf in a bookstore, I was happy.
Yeah.
But it went mad. It sold out in 18 months.
Wow.
And so I started getting invited over to the States for Beatles conventions, into Europe, all around the UK. And it's just been absolutely crazy. So I've done all the books, 3 documentary films, helped on a couple of other films, contributed to other books, working on a TV series. At the moment, still all about the Beatles. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
A Beatle person.
As I said, I mentioned before the show, I was a big fan. That's why I got into music doing that. And actually, one of my favorite things, and I still have it somewhere, and I was a lot younger then, but they did for those of you maybe at home or familiar with video gaming, with the game Rock Band was a big thing back in the day. It's not as much now. They did the Beatles version, which, I couldn't wait. I pre-ordered that thing. I had it just could not wait for that to drop. Like, obviously, all the songs. If those have not played the game, it's pretty simple button control. But you had and I had the box set, which has the controllers are the drum kits based off of skin the same as Ringo's kit, and I have the Hofner bass like Paul's had, the controller, it was just it was wonderful and really aesthetically pleasing as far as graphics go. It was a nice little twist brand there. But yeah, between films, I've got several books I've read about, done it. I've seen I think I've seen all of the films that they have done, which weren't horrible. Obviously, the acting is not their forte, and it wasn't terrible for what they were for budget films, especially in the UK. But just really, really had a love for that. And I was a big fan of the writing duo for Paul and John. So trying to write and understand I still say it's probably one of the best. Anybody at home can critique me. I still think it's one of the best writing duos of all time. I'm not saying the best, per se. I know there's others, but I think the collaboration when it was at its peak was good. So. But now this might be a pretty obvious question. Obviously, you're from the area there, but what was the allure for you to be such a big Beatles fan, though? Is there anything specific?
A combination of things. So I got into it through the music when I started learning when I was about 13 years old. So the first book I got was The Beatles Complete. And Gary, who taught me to play, is like 3 years older than me.
Okay.
So I got into it through the music. But then when I look back on my life, I grew up in the Dingle where Ringo's from.
Mm-hmm.
I actually attended the school that Ringo had gone to.
Really? Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And then, so when first got married, we lived a couple of streets up from where Ringo had grown up, opposite that school. And then we moved out to an area called Penny Lane, which you may
Yep.
So we lived out there for nearly 37 years. And our 3 daughters were all born in the same hospital John Lennon was born in.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went to the same primary school that both John and George went to.
Yeah.
Until last summer, I was the chair of the board of governors there.
Wow.
As well. So that's what sort of brought me then back into it. Was
fortuitous. Yeah.
Doing stuff at the school with the kids.
You just can't get away. That's awesome. Like, obviously, everybody, if you don't know Penny Lane, of course, the song speaks for itself too. If you're not familiar, like
don't get the singing.
Please don't. I will mute you. We don't need to. You're not as good. We don't need to hear that. Sorry, no offense.
But you ask me about Penny Lane later, because I'm the first person to work out what it all means.
Oh yeah, we'd love to get into that. Perfect. Yeah, we'll save that for a little teaser. We'll definitely get into that. But that's really awesome. And I will say this, and I'll turn over to the panel for any more questions. But I think, and I know I've heard interviews. I just watched an interview that Paul did recently too. But I guess I don't know if there's a book coming out or something out. They're doing this more tell-all about. I think he was on Howard Stern again recently about the breakup, what actually happened, what's going on, who did what. It's kind of nice to take those memories when you walk back. I mean, obviously, being in his 80s now, but he goes back like I still remember everything like it was yesterday. No pun intended. But just to kind of relive that, and the sad part I always said is it was such a sad short span of a career for them because obviously it was less than a decade, which. I mean, I know things happen and it was unfortunate, but just even in that short span of time, a lot of great things, such iconic between what they did, obviously they spanned into the films, but writing the songs, the albums that came out, just the impact. And again, obviously this is cliche for anybody who's known this, but the impact that the Beatles have had, we'll never see that again, no matter who's in this day and age of music, no matter who gets big. And again, it's no disrespect to any of the artists that are of today's generation, but it's a precedent of they really set the tone for a lot of groups. And a lot of groups they've said have come into this saying, you're the inspiration why I did, so-and-so. So I think that speaks volumes there. But I'll turn to the panel. We'll let ladies go first. Do you have a question? Since obviously she's the Beatles fan there too. I'll let you start with a question.
Well, I don't have a question. I saw an interview and I would like your opinion. Well, it was very sad. It was, I think it was Paul was on I think it was Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah.
And he asked, Jimmy or whoever the host asked, Paul, do you still like John, talking about John Lennon and everything.
Yeah.
And it made me so sad. He was like, oh, I dream about him.
Mm-hmm.
He's in my dreams.
Yeah, and talks to him.
It was, what do you think? What version do you think of John does Paul see in his dreams?
Yeah, which version of John? Funny enough, I was having this conversation with a Beatles fan yesterday of if anybody wants to hang a topic on a quote from John Lennon, then you have to ask a series of questions. One, what day of the week was it?
Mm-hmm.
What year was it? What substance was he on? What book had he just read?
Right.
He changed his mind so often.
Yeah.
But John, as the Beatle, was so conflicted, so traumatized by his childhood.
Yep.
And Paul, I think, was one of the few people who was let in.
Closest to him. Yep.
Yeah, on John's protective shell.
Yep.
Because of all the traumas. First documentary I ever got involved in was called Looking for Lennon, which we did back in 2018. And we specifically set out to look at all the traumas in John's life, what led up to him becoming a Beatle.
Right.
When you understand all of that, you get a better understanding for who John was. And so I think the relationship between John and Paul changed so much.
Right.
Because I know he's saying they only released albums for 7 years, between 63 and 70.
Yep.
But they'd been together since July 1957.
Yeah.
When they first met. George was in the group in the Quarrymen by the end of 1957.
Yep.
So John Paul and George were together for almost 5 years before
prior
the
to
single comes out.
Yep.
Before they start becoming famous. So they'd grown up through their teens. They'd experienced, going to Hamburg.
Yeah.
All that hard work before they got the record deal.
The fame and all the fortune kicked in. Yep.
Exactly. So they'd gone through all of that. And of course, John went through various substance abuses.
Right.
Mainly trying to deal with the trauma of childhood.
Yeah.
Each one was trying to bury the pain. And you get into songs, the thing of the song Help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Most people don't really appreciate what that song was about.
Yeah.
John wrote that as a genuine cry for help. Help me if you can. I'm feeling down.
Yeah.
When he was younger, so much younger than today, he didn't need anybody's help. But now those days are gone.
Yeah.
So and it was quite an introspective, slow, almost bluesy song. Then they changed the film title from Eight Arms to Hold You to Help.
Yep.
Suddenly the theme song, so they have to speed it up. And you can see the Beatles performing with John at the front. There's a big smile on his face. Help me if you can. I'm feeling down.
Right.
Everybody moved it. So Paul was alongside him through all those traumas. And then, really, by the time you get to 65, they're almost writing independently anyway.
Yeah.
But helping to finish off each other's songs.
Yep.
Then they go for a traumatic couple of years for the end of the Beatles. Then they're sort of having a go at each other through song.
They were having a war with words. Yeah, I remember that at the end. It got really nasty. And I saw that interview too. He said that. I think it was Howard Stern also. He said the same thing. He's like, you guys are just writing songs. Like, you're just going at each other's throat. And he goes, I felt bad too, like when you're saying that too, like because he also said, we bonded because Paul lost his mother young. I think that's what John saw the similarities there.
Yeah.
And he said, people saw us like on the stage. They didn't see us. And he said, I think it was recently, he said too, that they asked him, did you ever, obviously the Beatles never got back together, but did you ever see each other before then and before he died? He said, I was just at John's last week. We talk. I call him. I go over. We were writing something, nothing published, but we were just like the good old days. We're sitting at his flat or his house, I think in New York somewhere.
Yeah.
We're in the backyard. He's got his guitar. It's like the good old days when we were kids. We're just kind of jamming and chatting. And, it was like being back in middle school, going back in the day. So it was just, I think it's the business that he said the business is what kind of kills it. It got personal. It got out of hand.
Yeah.
Obviously with Yoko being involved, but at that point, and I say this, and I ask this question, if you agree, as you're a big, advocate and obviously have studied this too, but like, I don't think Yoko was the final straw. I think John had reached a plateau. They were going to split at some point. The creative differences just kind of really set in. That was just the final push that he needed, the excuse, I guess, as the other said, that he's like, you know what, I'm done with the Beatles. I found a new outlet for creativity. I'm going on my own. I'm going off. I'm leaving. But it's just so unique to see this stuff. And all these years later, like we hear all this stuff, but like when they go back and these guys, they still like, it's obviously just Paul and Ringo at this point, but they still remember that. It's so vivid. Like it was just the other day. And he's like, yeah. So I agree with that. And I kind of answer that question. I think if it were me in that case, and I know Paul's had dreams of his mother when he did Let It Be. That was the whole scope there. But I always think it's probably the memories you have in the good times, not so much the bad times. Obviously, you're not going to want to remember that. And I think it's the version of, when things were good, before we got estranged, before the ego started setting in, before, I know that Paul had said, we got frustrated with John because he wouldn't show up. He wouldn't show up to the studio. He'd be like one of the last ones there. And I think he said it was at the end of 65 or 66 when they were more in the studio, and they're like, we would come in, record our own tracks. We wouldn't all even be there at the same time. We'd all come in at different intervals. We weren't always all there together. So it was pretty much, we were all separate even before the big breakup. So, but yeah, it's just so unique. You see all these stories, right? All these things come back. And again, you probably found a lot in your research for that, because you see and you never know what's real, what's not. Obviously a lot of it's fan theories, a lot of it's some things come out, things have been written, so stories have been told. But that's a really unique way to think about it. Do you have a question there, Taskmaster Bill?
I sure do.
You've been uncharacteristically quiet. We want to give you a shot. Go ahead.
I will give you the.
Yeah, because Justin, you won't shut the hell up.
And there it goes. That's being production is really good there. Thank you.
And so the question is, it may seem simple, but you might want to dig deeper. Why do you feel the Beatles were universally loved, regardless of country, regardless of language? I mean, they did things in German, they did things in French.
Well, except in Japan, they weren't loved there. They were asked to leave the country. But aside from that,
well, yeah, but that's a little thing about green stuff in his pocket.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I was waiting
why the universal fan base from men, women, 80-year-olds and 20-year-olds? Why
to this day, even
it's one of those things that I've asked of a number of fans who were there in the 60s, and it's one of those things from very early on. It's sort of saying old Beatlemania was old girls. It was girls that screaming because you heard them. But they were the first of the bands to really appeal to lads and girls in equal measures back in Liverpool. And the same thing was happening in Hamburg. So all these formative years that they dressed really cool before they got into the suits, doing the black leathers, a bit like Gene Vincent was. And a bit like they'd idolized Elvis for the way he looked. So the guys could idolize the Beatles and the girls could fall in love with the Beatles. And there was just something about the music. And I think probably the best thing they had going for them, unlike all the other groups who were around at the time, all the other groups were a lead singer and their band. Over here, we had Cliff Richard and the Shadows, the big group. But on Merseyside, Rory Storm and the Hurricanes, Jerry and the Pacemakers. Every group was a lead singer and that. And so anytime you see a group like that where they have a lead singer, the lead singer becomes the focal point. Whereas they never wanted that. And John, whose group it was, never ever wanted it to be him and the others. It was always about the group. And so in Liverpool, the girls and the guys had their favorites. And it was never all the focus on just the one of them. I think that was the beauty of particularly when they break in the States on the Ed Sullivan Show. You've seen them arrive a couple of days before at JFK and they do the interview. And I think that's when they connected with the fans in such a different way to any other artist before them. Suddenly, all four of them had their own distinct personalities, were answering questions, they were being funny. Nobody could keep up with them. And people that, they're especially funny Liverpoolians, they weren't that. They were just typical Liverpool people. That's what Liverpool's like. You learn to fight with your mouth before you learn to fight with your fists. And so they had the personalities, the sense of humor, and a totally new way of performing as artists. And suddenly you've got a group, so they were never on their own. But also, you try and tell me what genre the Beatles were, and you won't be able to, because they were pop, they were rock and roll, they were country. There was jazz influences.
There was definitely rhythm and blues influences there.
There's rhythm and blues, and
blues. BB King was a huge one for them at that time too.
And we talked just before. Actually, saying about listening to the White Album. You try and pin down what the White Album is. It's the most eclectic mixture. Different musical styles. I mean, something you go back to early music hall and variety entertainment they were growing up listening to was happening in the 20s and 30s in Britain. All these different genres, they were all coming across as they were growing up. And it's all reflected in the music. So you cannot pin them down. You say, what the Rolling Stones? Well, there's your blues and R&B.
Well, I mean, you've got songs like Back in the USSR, and then you got Rocky Raccoon. Like that's all over the place.
You got out and out country songs. You've got rock and roll. I mean, think of the first few albums, they're doing all the covers, which is mainly American R&B, Motown, rock and roll.
And then you have that theory that Helter Skelter was the first heavy metal song. No, you link it back to that with the screeching and the and that sort of thing. So, Ashley, do you have anything you want to ask them?
I think, and I feel. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me actually fact check this. That's what I've been trying to do before I speak, and I sound stupid.
There's no stupid questions. I get the fact checking though. You never know. You gotta be careful of the internet.
Well, yeah. I need to fact check because I'm pretty sure I'm right. But
let me ask this: while you're fact checking, I have a question because I'm curious. One of the films I like this, and I'm gonna guess that David, you may have seen it, but that sort of documentary film of the Paul is really dead. Have you seen that film?
Paul is dead.
but when you watch that, like, and when they bring in, like, I just want to use the example, like they say when you look at the album covers, like the subtle hints at the, I know it's not the truth of it, but it's just really scary how they tie things together when it's like, like the was it Let It Be, where they're not looking the same way. Paul's looking a different direction. Sergeant Pepper, there's a mound of flowers, like a grave there, and they're standing over them, and then of course the classic walking across Abbey Road. The gravedigger, he's not wearing any shoes. Like it was just such a unique tie of it.
Registration number of the Volkswagen Beetle in the background.
Yep.
I mean, there's everything, and it's like with any conspiracy theory. If you want to prove something and you go looking for it, you will find it.
Yeah.
Just to support your theory. And
exactly.
by the end of it, the Beatles had played into it. They thought it was hysterical. So that they were adding into.
They were fueling the fire, as it were. Yeah. You can't beat them, join them, right? I mean,
it's the best way.
Why not? I think Paul said to this day, even he laughs. He goes, I don't know, like they said, I had so much plastic surgery. I had a vocal coach. I had, if I'm the faux Paul, the fake Paul, sure, why not? I got this scar from it's actually then the backwards record thing. What did he say? The one was they said it was supposed to say a subliminal message to worshiping Satan. He goes, it actually says cranberry sauce.
Cranberry sauce. Yeah.
But I don't know how they got that, but sure, okay, why not? So they became devil worshippers. Okay, sure. It's heavy metal at that time,
I think what I love most about not just music in general, but just the Beatles, because obviously, like we've said, they are probably the forefront of music. When you think of music in general, you're gonna have your Beatles, you're gonna have your Rolling Stones, they're obviously in the mix. And I am a really big, I would say, I love the 60s, I love the 70s, but aside from that, 80s and 90s grunge music is I love Nirvana, I love Pearl Jam, I love Alice in Chains, all of that stuff. And I feel like, especially with Kurt Cobain and Nirvana, I know that Kurt Cobain, that's what I was fact checking, the inspiration that he got from the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even now we see a lot of musicians trying to be that we don't really have a genre. Yeah. And I feel like society as a whole kind of puts you into that genre. I'm sure that, the thing is Kurt Cobain never wanted to be Kurt Cobain. He never wanted to be the forefront of it, we see that in his writing and everything. And I feel like a lot of that kind of comes from John Lennon and everything that he went through, and especially with Paul as well. And I love seeing that. And I think that if we didn't have genres as a whole, obviously music would be different and it wasn't this box that you had to put in. But I feel like right after the Beatles dispersed, we say a lot in music of that time period, people still being no, we can be rock, we can be pop, we can do all these things. And I think that that's beautiful and really cool that the Beatles kind of didn't really care how anybody put them into a box. If they wanted to do something that was country, they did something that was country. If they wanted to do something that was pop or rock and roll, heavy metal, whatever it was, they kind of just did whatever. And they used their mind, their creative minds to make just really fucking good music. And that is awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what will always endure. In the same way you talk about Mozart and Tchaikovsky and Beethoven, was because out of all the composers and all the music being made, the good music will always be good music.
Mhm.
And great music will always be great music. And that's why the Beatles will endure, because nobody can pin them down.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't matter what music you'll like a Beatles song.
It's something has a tie to it somewhere. There's always some kind of inspiration from it. You're pulling something from it. I always like personally too. Obviously, it's most notably known the Sgt. Pepper album. When they did that, that was when they became the Sgt. Pepper's band, so they could kind of not be the Beatles. They were taking a break without taking a break.
Yeah,
and that was the point when they started recording like separately. They weren't together. You know, even during that turmoil, they were still putting out such iconic songs and pieces. So like even when they weren't together collectively unified, they were still working together to put the music there. And and how many groups do that? Usually when you break, I mean, again, the breakup was unfortunate, it was bad, but like usually when they do that, it just kind of all crumbles. They really worked hard to keep it together so that, and I think even they said it, and I think they asked Paul that recently too. He's like, as far as I know, Apple Records went on long after they disbanded. That was a company, they started that. So like even if it's not us, it's someone else for the future, right?
Yeah, and I think that was the great thing about what they did was, certainly in this country, they changed the whole of the music scene.
Yeah.
And I think that they sort of then did that for America and the rest of the world, which comes back to what you were saying before, Bill. And it might be that up until that point, if you had a record, you were probably a solo singer.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a record company who would go off to Tin Pan Alley and get some songwriters and say, write me a song, this one will fit this person's voice, and off they go, sing it, and off they go. And there's your career. Suddenly the Beatles come along and say, actually, no, we're not going to do that. We write our own songs.
Yeah.
And we perform our own songs. And even though they're doing some cover versions on their albums, they suddenly changed. And the floodgates opened, which meant that there were all these other British bands knocking round, and then all the American bands knocking round, who have been experimenting with writing their own songs.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't get, because the charts were just not a place for bands to be. And suddenly they come along and say, right, singer-songwriters, do your own stuff. And that's how you get things like the British Invasion, which obviously heads over to the States. And I think that changes. And I think anybody who is performing their own music now as a singer-songwriter, whether solo or in a band, should say thank you to the Beatles.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And again, I want to ask this question. This is a fact checker too, but I mean, you guys can ask them too, but like, to your point, like, you know, how they were instrumental. They took charge. They're writing things, even in the studio. I know there was some guff with George Martin at one time when they're in the studio. Once they got to a certain point, they're like, listen, this is how we're doing it. I mean, they could take direction, but they're like, no, we're you know, screw that. We're doing this. You know, we're going a different direction. I feel like a lot of that changed when Brian Epstein died, because I know they talked a lot about, like, it was the first manager who was there with them. They were close. And I don't know if it was John. Somebody said, I think it was an interview somewhere. It was written down in one of the books, maybe in the biography somewhere, that, you know, at that point, they had determined that losing Brian was a huge gut wrench for them. Like, we really have to control our destiny going forward, no matter who we work with or who's with us, because I guess they had, he was such that driving force. He was a lot like them. I guess they kind of got connected there, where he was really putting their best interest there. And he's like, well, now he's not there. And, you know, they were obviously at the height of everything. So they're like, you know what? And I think that's when they made that deal. They all signed it, and it led to Apple Records. Like, you know, everything we're doing, we're splitting equally. We make our own decisions. We are determining what's best for the band. The music's protected. Our the catalog that we have, they're all that stuff. It was a sign of growth. But I think that was really a huge stepping point for that, just because a lot of bands, especially today, I mean, they try to do that, but they always have the studio takes control, or the management does there, but they're like, we really are managing ourselves.
Yeah.
Which was not a big, I mean, it was kind of a thing back then, but it wasn't, nobody had that success level by managing themselves. Everybody always was represented by somebody, right? So I think it's another great staple for, I think, a lot of groups or artists that, even in this day and age, you can do that, but you have to really grow. And they were so connected at that point where they could stand together and really say, yeah, we are in control of this. and they could walk out saying, you know, if we don't like this, we'll walk out of the studio. And I think, what was it? The one they did, was it George? Somebody walked out. He said, I'm walking in going, I'm not doing this today.
Oh, like, you know, George and Ringo quit at different times.
We're walking out. We're not doing this. We don't like the setup. We're not being heard. We told George Martin that. We told the studio execs that. They don't hear us. Goodbye. I'm not doing this today.
That was George quit during the Get Back sessions.
That's the one. Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Ringo quit while they were doing the White Album.
Yep.
But that was nothing to do with anybody else. That was internal between the four of them.
Right. That was when the things were starting to break. But at least, again, and you respect that. At least they were stable. They were strong enough in their own selves to say, you know, and it's nothing personal too. It's just the creativeness just kind of drove them in different directions. Like, you know, Ringo saying, I'm not heard. I want to write my own songs. John and Paul are doing it. Even George is eclipsing me writing songs. I want to write my own songs. He wants control. He wants control. He's not listening. He's not listening. And of course, I think John and Paul got the worst of it because they were like basically like brothers, where now the marriage is over and now they're starting to, when the songs start attacking each other, like, you know, it wasn't meant to be personal, but there were feelings that were hurt, like the, you know, the bad breakup when you have a relationship ends.
Yeah. Oh, it was. And I also think that, you know, mentioning Brian's death, that is the point when you start to see the end of the Beatles.
Yeah.
There's lots and lots of factors, and lots of people will come back and blame Yoko because she's an easy target.
Right. Oh, yeah.
That's a side issue.
Yeah.
Once Brian's died, they'd always said they would never have another manager.
Yep.
With Brian gone, he kept them all together.
Yep.
With Brian gone, now the dynamic changes. Paul always had the drive, and he was the one who wanted to keep the Beatles together. More than any of the others, but that changed the dynamic in the group, where it's always been sort of seen as John's group. Now Paul's having to be almost like part manager and band member. Dynamic changes. That's when they start to drift, and there's no Brian to keep them together.
He's the equilibrium thing. He's like the dad keeping the four kids. You know, like, listen, everybody. And that's, you know, that's where they started nitpicking. And my favorite too was, you've heard that one too, the whole inspiration for Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Like, well, John was just lazily writing this. Like, he really wasn't trying. So like, we got a song out of it, but I think if he would have tried, it could have been better. But he's just like, you know what? I'm not feeling this. I'll just throw something together, and there you go. Like, he wasn't paying attention in sessions. He'd walk in, come in late, wouldn't, you know, whatever it was. And Paul's, you know, pushing him like, hey, where's the dynamic that we had writing? And he's like, just not feeling it. You know, I'm just not, he was in a whole different place. So,
yeah, and that was it. And Substances, various ones that they were on,
huge,
were affecting them as well. And that gives you personality changes. And
huge mood swingers.
Yeah. So that when you've lived together and done everything together for so long, and you think about it, they only were an international touring group for 3 years.
Yeah,
that was it. The first British tour starts beginning in 1963. They finished their last tour at the end of August 1966.
Yep.
So, but because they've been everywhere with no peace and quiet, no privacy, suddenly they've got this time, and they have some time off, do their own little projects, then come back. But now, instead of like with Please Please Me, having an occasional recording session and then putting the majority of it down in one night session.
Yep.
To record most of the album, because that's all they could fit in whilst being on tour.
Yeah.
Suddenly they're spending 5 or 6 months putting an album together. And it picks up what you were saying just before. You know, Abbey Road, the last album they recorded together, is possibly their greatest album musically. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
At virtually no point were all four of them in the studio at the same time.
Nope.
They were hardly talking to each other
at that point.
But they were professional musicians.
Yep.
And they knew their responsibility as a professional musician was more important than the ego. And they had a job to do. And they came in and they did their job.
And they always loved the fans too. They did it for the fans. They're like, people love that they, and I forget who, I think they all said it at one time too, but they're like, you know what? It's always been the fans. We love interacting when we can, being there. So like, if it's not for us, and it might have been John at one point saying when he was in his really bad low, he's like, I don't feel like writing it, but, you know, we owe it to the fans there. And, you know, we wouldn't be here if not for, you know, ... So, you know, coming together for that. And I agree with you too. I think Abbey Road, like that was their swan song of Symphony of it. It was coming to an end, but some of the best things came out of it, even as it was crashing and burning, if you want to call it that way. So,
which is incredible.
Yes, go ahead. You came from the peanut gallery. You guys can jump in anytime, you know.
Well, we're waiting for.
Go ahead. I think Bill's got to go. I'm a huge. This is my territory. I'm a huge Beatles nerd. Like
I'm waiting to like enter into the conversation, but like then I just like keep on hearing you speak and I lose my train of thought. So
okay, Yoko.
Yeah. Well, Yoko is experiencing a female issue, so I might have to
Oh, that's right. It's one of those, yeah. He's a girl dad. It's that time of the
talk to me.
Yeah.
It's no, I'm not I'm just not I'm not gonna say on a live stream.
That's fine. That's okay. Just
the Red Sea. So I will I'm gonna mute and turn off my camera and I'll be back in 1 second.
Go ahead. Okay. All right, then I'll throw it to Bill, then we'll let Bill go for it. Go ahead. What's your question, Bill?
All right, here we go.
Or statement,
now,
whatever.
My Beatles backstory is I grew up with them because of osmosis with my parents. I told you before, my mom saw the Beatles in '65 in Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. And that was back when they played 2 shows a day. So they played the 2 o'clock and the 8 o'clock. And my dad loved the Dave Clark 5. Always swore they were better than the Beatles, you know. This goes back to the question of, yeah, I know that they were rivals with the Stones, but they all got along. They were fine. You know, and Jerry and the Pacemakers, and they're all in the same crowd.
Yeah.
Who were the musicians that they really admired and looked up to? Because I remember reading an article that the Beatles really were big fans of the band with Robbie Robinson.
Yeah.
They were huge fans of theirs. And I know that they were big fans of the rhythm and blues.
Chuck Berry.
What were the musicians, or who were the musicians that they looked up to that they, you know, maybe collabed with, or you always wanted to get the chance to meet?
What started them? Well, this go back to the very, very beginning, which is everything is down to a guy called Lonnie Donegan.
Yep. Skiffle.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Skiffle band. Yep.
Yeah. So Lonnie Donegan was banjo player in a jazz group, the Chris Barber jazz group, and he loved these old time American folk songs, you know, Lead Belly, Woody Guthrie, all that kind of stuff, early country, early blues. So he starts his craze, and it comes out beginning in 1956, and Skiffle, and because of Donegan, John, Paul, and George get guitars and start playing, as do thousands of others. So a lot of the British musicians who come through in the 60s, whether you're talking like Jimmy Page, Keith Richards, whatever, they all start in Skiffle. So everything starts with Donegan.
Mm-hmm.
But the first song they probably recognize is Rock Around the Clock.
Yep.
And thought, oh, this is great fun. And then they see Bill Haley arriving in London, this big 40-year-old guy. Everybody thinks, oh, he looks like their fat uncle. He's not something to look up to. Musically, then, Little Richard.
Yep.
Really blows John's mind when he first hears Long Tall Sally. It's absolutely just amazing. But then when they hear and then they see Elvis, that was it. He was just everything. He was king. But as a musician, more than anybody else, was Buddy Holly.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Because with Buddy, what they liked about him was he looked awkward, but he wrote his own songs. He performed his songs. He sang in a very unique style, and he had this great Fender Strat.
Yep.
And he thought, he looks great. And of course, Buddy Holly played in Liverpool in March 1958.
Yep.
On his UK tour, and John went to see him.
Oh, did he go on one of those tours on the buses with Paul Anka and all those guys?
Oh, there was a load of them. Yeah.
It was huge, yeah.
The whole UK tour. But Buddy Holly, and you speak to any of the musicians who came out of Liverpool, it's exactly the same thing. Buddy Holly was the be all and end all. He was the thing that really inspired them.
Yeah.
Because again, it's what they wanted to do, because John and Paul were already writing songs. It's one of the things that they connected with on the day they first met. Because they say, you know, what sort of hobbies you got? And Paul says, well, I've written like a couple of songs. And John said, so have I. Neither of them had ever met anybody else who was writing their own songs. So that whole idea of writing your own stuff started very, very early for them. So Buddy Holly embodied all of that, because guitar group, doing his own stuff, great guitar, great singing.
Oh, yeah.
That's who they wanted to be. But the great thing was, they were never satisfied with just picking one group, one artist. They were absorbing everything. So country music was massive in Liverpool. We were known as the Nashville of the North. We're the biggest country and western scene, definitely in Britain, possibly in Europe. So country music was massive here. It really was.
I was going to say, is that the influence of, like, I know they were big with Buck Owens.
Yeah, but Hank Williams especially. Yeah, John especially was a big Hank Williams fan. And I don't know if you've ever listened to it, but Hank Williams, really, if you listen to some of his music, you hear the beginnings of rock and roll.
Yep.
And his song, Move It On Over.
Mm-hmm.
You listen to Move It On Over, that is the melody with slightly different words, which is Rock Around the Clock.
Yep.
So Rock Around the Clock starts years before with Hank Williams. So country music was massive. And a lot of the artists who inspired the Beatles were country artists. So that's why country was a big thing for them. But the black musicians, the black music from America, would choose. So Little Richard and Chuck Berry especially were probably more popular in the UK than in the States.
Yep.
Of course, in the States, you had the race chart, so everything was separate. And I remember reading an interview recently. It's one that John had given in the early 70s. And he said, when we came to America in 64, we thought, great, we're coming to the country of our idols. We want to talk about Little Richard and Chuck Berry. And I was saying, who's that?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Because, of course, their time.
Couldn't talk about. Yep.
Yeah. So there are all these different influences. And this was all in Liverpool.
Yeah.
You know, so you had R&B, some blues, you had country, you had the Irish and Celtic folk music, which a lot of the roots of country music is anyway. British folk. You had all these different musical styles all happening in Liverpool. And what I've been doing is part of the research that I love is those early influences. And then talking to some of the black musicians who were in Liverpool at the time.
Yeah.
Who were giving guitar lessons to John and Paul, to teaching them how to play music in the proper way. So all this stuff, all this music that the Beatles were inspired by, it was all what they were learning in Liverpool. That was all their grounding. But then, like we were saying before, once they become famous, they don't sit back and think, that's it, we've made it. They're then challenged by whatever else is going on in the world of music. And like we were saying, it's the anniversary today of Revolver coming out, August 66. And you think, that, for me, is the era-defining album. A lot of people try and think Sgt. Pepper's. I think Revolver is far more important. Yeah. Because at the timing of it, in 66, you know, the challenge is now, not just from the other British groups, but then for the other great bands who are coming out of America now, but especially the Beach Boys. Now, they were the ones who were really good. And it was almost like, right, we're doing this, so we've got to do better than that, then we've got to do better than that. And
I was going to say, wasn't the Magical Mystery Tour their version of Pet Sounds?
No, no, I think Pet Sounds really is more linked with Sgt. Pepper.
Oh, Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah.
Pepper.
But I think that's why Revolver's more important, because you started with Taxman as the opening thing. And even like the opening lyric of that, let me tell you how it will be. It's a statement. Yeah. And you go through that album of all these amazing songs, and you finish with Tomorrow Never Knows, which is basically saying, okay, Beach Boys and everybody else, Now what are you going to do? Because that is laying down the gauntlet. Tomorrow
Right.
Never Knows defines and just changes absolutely everything from production, from the song itself. We talk about drumming, just listen to Ringo's drumming.
Yeah.
Tomorrow Never Knows. It's absolutely phenomenal. It is so
Love
amazing.
it.
But that album, for me, changes the 60s. The Beatles were never satisfied with, okay, we've got this far. Let's rest our laurels. They were always looking at whatever the competition was doing.
Yeah, and we could do better. We could do more.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. But the Beach Boys were really the ones who were pushing them because of the amazing creative mind that Brian Wilson had. And
yeah, they had hit after hit after hit after hit. Like,
you mean it wasn't the Monkees?
I'll say this, my comment, you guys can agree or disagree, and it's no offense. I'm not a huge Monkees fan, but I don't see that as much competition for the Beatles, if we're going to be honest. Now, I say that in all due respect, so please, nobody, if anybody's watching, I'm not dissing the Monkees. So
I say it in jest because they were a band that were brought together with TV,
Yeah, that was their kind of claim.
Ashley, do you have anything you'd like to ask him?
Well, I love the band. The band is like, I don't do it. I think it's their live. I don't know where they were, but their live performance of "Don't Do It" is one of my favorite ones. I've grown up playing music for my entire life, and the Beatles. I've played the guitar, I've played the drums. I've been playing since I was like very young, and I would say the Beatles is definitely they've 1,000% shaped where I've probably gained a lot of my thoughts and perspective on what I want my music to sound. The band as well, and Bob Dylan. I loved the Bob Dylan movie with Timothy Chalamet. It was awesome. I just fucking love the Beatles, man. Like, I don't really know how else I can say it.
That's fair.
I'm enthralled by what you do because I feel like it is. And if I would do Pearl Jam is my favorite band. I love Eddie Vedder. They're my Beatles. They're to me what the Beatles are to you.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm enjoying this conversation and I just like listening. I don't really know what questions I have because I feel like I just want to hear you talk.
Well, even just it's the accent. We get it. I feel the same way. It's the accent.
It's the accent.
He tells me to shut up as my kids do.
Okay, now
we love that. We're just simple Americans. We love the accent. So please, by all means, go ahead.
I hear a British accent.
We're not all Americans.
Minus the Canadian. He hears it. He doesn't count. So anyway.
Fuck you, Bill.
Here's a theory I've always had that I've never heard anybody say out loud.
Ooh.
The Beatles broke up, 1970?
Officially.
April of 70 or whatever it was. Coming out of England and the US at that time, the music scene was shifting. And it was going from the poppy, I love you, yeah, to something different. But bands like Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Blue Cheer, they were all kind of emerging in that 68 to 71. Do you think that pushed them out a little, or did that they didn't like the direction, or did that like make them want to do Helter Skelter, or do you think it had absolutely nothing to do with it?
Nothing to do with it because they, picking up from what Ashley was saying, Dylan was a massive influence.
Yeah.
Which you can hear, particularly in that sort of 64, 65 time of the way they were writing songs, the way they were playing songs. Dylan was a big influence. So they were always reflecting if they liked somebody, they liked their music, they'd go and take an influence. They'd steal things.
Yeah.
As all musicians have to do at some point, you're stealing something from somewhere else without plagiarizing.
Yep.
And so they were always pushing the boundaries.
I can see the Beatles following like Leonard Cohen, Joni Mitchell. Gordon Lightfoot, like those kind of people that told a story. Exactly. It wasn't just fluff. I met a girl, I want to have sex with her. Like it's not those kind of songs.
Yeah, because that was the pop stuff that they did to get them famous, and once they've done that, a lot of them, as they will say, that was just a throwaway pop song. Now that throwaway pop song is probably better than 95% of other songs that were ever written, but for them, it was just a throwaway. And that was one of the great things of meeting Dylan, and of that folk tradition, and going back to the country roots, which was a song has to tell a story.
Absolutely.
And like Dylan was giving John in particular permission to write about himself.
Mm-hmm.
Paul was not one for doing that.
No.
Paul writing in third person somehow.
Yep.
A different writing style. But once they started doing that and being more introspective, the songwriting changes, it matures.
Yep.
And I think they've got themselves to that stage by the time they're doing Abbey Road.
Yep.
Where they're creating, like the side 2 of Abbey Road is a mini rock opera. They weren't the first to do that. But again, they were just pushing boundaries and trying, experimenting with what they wanted to do. And I think because they had the success by the time they've got to, A Hard Day's Night.
Yeah.
Films come out, it's going mad, and you get the Help in 65. And then Rubber Soul is the first. Okay, let's try and do something a little bit different here. And it works really well.
Yep.
Which gives them then the chance to do Revolver.
Yeah.
Think, right, we're going to do what we want, when we want. If you don't like it, tough.
Exactly. And I think if you remember, if you think about it, and I say this as a pure Beatles fan, we look at it, breakup was going to be inevitable because you saw the creativeness, and they've plateaued so much. And don't forget, a lot of them, they were still under 30. They really hadn't, and they were been together for so long that I don't want to say you grow tired, but like you're looking for a new challenge. I think Paul said that when he did Wings, like he was just looking for a new challenge. Like he'd done all these things with John and with George and with Ringo. Like I said, I still love them like they're my friend, their family, but it's just I wanted a new challenge where I could create something that I hadn't done already with different people. Can I challenge myself as a writer, as a musician with different artists? And I think John said something similar at an interview at one time as well. At least they hinted at it. And, George and Ringo at one point, you just kind of sort of reach that plateau. I've been in a lot of bands. Like I've had my, I had my Beatle moments before and we all just broke it. It just doesn't work. Like you just, whatever reason, but you just kind of understand that whatever you're going to do creatively at some point, there is a shelf life that you're looking for a new adventure. And I think that's just kind of where that happened at that point.
They were always looking for a new challenge.
Yep.
And they were coming to the point of, and that's where Paul was going to try and keep them together, come up with new ideas. That's why they do Magical Mystery Tour.
Yeah.
And this idea of the Let It Be thing of, okay, we're not touring anymore. Why don't we film ourselves writing, making an album and finish up with a performance somewhere? It was something different.
Yeah.
And they were all basically afraid of getting back up on that stage and performing. It nearly didn't happen right at the last minute. It was that close. And you think, if you're a band and you're not performing live, that immediately says your time is now limited. Because that's really what a band is there to do.
Absolutely.
Is to perform. And if you're not doing that, what is the thrill of the
It's like, what's the point? Yeah. We love the albums, like we're fans, but we want to see these guys on stage. Like you go to see your idols, the people you love to watch. And Beatles did it all those years. They went to see their idols. But you kind of lose that touring allure. Like I love the rooftop concert. That's probably one that a lot of people have emulated, but nothing like that. It was a whole different thing at that time. So even at the very end, they still had one major big show-stopping performance that everybody was across rooftops, right?
Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And that's the buzz as a musician, is to perform live. That's why they stopped touring, because they were not developing as musicians.
Yep.
Because technology was poor. They were stuck in the middle of like a Shea Stadium, in the middle of a baseball field, miles away from the crowd, with a rough PA system. They couldn't hear each other. Yep. Nobody was listening to them. They weren't all necessarily playing the right song at the same time. And I think, so as musicians, they weren't developing, and they were getting no enjoyment out of performing live. So it made sense to stop touring.
Absolutely.
So Ashley, I have a question for you, sweetheart. If you were around in 1966 or 65, what type of a Beatle fan would you? Would you have the little Bobby stockings and the hair? Would you run?
She would throw her bra on stage. Come on.
Would you be one of those? What kind of a fan would you be?
I would say that I would probably frequent a lot of concerts and probably throw my bra on stage.
See?
Yeah, I would definitely like the posters in I have a Pink Floyd poster in my like childhood room.
It's on the ceiling, isn't it? You want just the tape to fall off and just right on.
No, it's like my room is covered.
Oh, okay.
In like it was fully covered before, this is the aftermath of me not living here for 3 years and just coming home to visit. And
also, that's a tribute to your wife.
Yeah.
But I have like and a lot of it is in my new place, all of the stuff that I have. But I definitely would probably be like a groupie or something. I would have been.
No,
I would have tried to. I would have been trying to bone. I would have been trying to bone Paul for like ever.
You would
interesting choice.
You would be the head of the booster club and arrange those bus tours to follow him all over the place.
Yeah.
That
like growing up, me and my dad every single morning when I was like 4 or 5, or like I would say probably like 4 to like 6, we would listen to Silly Love Songs by the Wings.
Yeah.
In the morning while he was like making me and I have a twin sister, so making me and my sister like breakfast before school. And that's like one of my vivid memories of childhood. I've always loved Paul McCartney. I have him and John. I listened growing up, like in high school and everything. I listened to John Lennon's solo stuff probably more than I listened to Paul McCartney and like the Wings and everything. But I would 1,000% have thrown multiple bras on stage. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, would you go as far as Tom Jones and throw the underpants?
I would do everything. I would like strip at Beatles.
She get up on stage shaking them naked. Come on now, Bill. What do we? Yeah,
it would be like a Hawkwind concert. It would be like
that's how I would be during. I'm so upset. So I was born in 2006. So I didn't get any of the good
Well,
music.
you didn't even get the solo Paul stuff because I grew up with the solo, all that.
I didn't get any of that. I grew up on the Beatles, on Pearl Jam, on Nirvana, Stone Temple Pilots, all that stuff because of my dad.
Yeah.
But if I was alive during like the 1980s and I could follow Pearl Jam around the country, I 1,000% would. I just love music. Like music is, I fall asleep to music. Like I listen to music when I sleep. I listen to music when I'm brushing my teeth. I listen to music when I'm at the gym, when I'm driving. Like I don't understand how people can say like, oh, I don't listen to any music while I'm driving.
All the time. I never have the radio off. You can't. Yeah.
You can't. Like if right now, if we were not on this call, I would be listening to music and doing work. Like,
yeah.
But I also really appreciate lyrics more than anything. Like I like the way that obviously music sounds, but I'm a lyric person at heart. And even if I like don't like the tempo or how it was produced or anything, I am a lyric person.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think I really do like the Beatles, because of the story that they tell and all of the like just stuff that maybe the regular human wouldn't realize. I know a lot of people aren't really a lyric people. They want music that's going to help make them dance or make them
I love storytelling. Yeah, I gotta have lyrics.
I'm the same.
But I won't, if I'm like doing karaoke to a song that I like don't remember, I won't do what I remember. I won't do it based off the beat. I'll do it based off the lyrics because that's how
that's fair. That's very fair.
So David, I have a question for you. One urban legend I've heard about the Beatles is when they wrote the song "Paperback Writer."
Oh yes.
Somebody challenged John by saying, "Can you write anything that isn't about love, girls, driving in your car? Can you pick some random topic and write a song?" Hence, "Paperback Writer." Is that true?
You've really got to go back a bit further than that for his first proper challenge. And one of his first challenges, one was Dylan, we were talking about before, but one was there was a journalist over here, and it's when John had brought out his first book of poems in his own right. And of course, a lot of those were things that he was writing when he was in school, even before he ever picked a guitar up. And that challenge then was, well, you've got stories about Liverpool and your childhood, but you've never written a song about your childhood in Liverpool. Why is that? And so John's response to that was to write In My Life. Now, what most people don't know is that there was a first draft of In My Life, which John worked on, which he then rejected.
Yep.
He wrote, and that first draft of In My Life made a list of the places he remembered traveling around Liverpool on a bus. The first of which was Penny Lane. He talks about going on the bus from Penny Lane up Church Road to the Clock Tower where they used to meet, to the Circle of the Abbey, which was the cinema where they used to go, and to the Dutch Cafe they used to go and sit in. And he made this long list of places he remembered. Couldn't make that work, scrapped it, and just kept there are places I remember, and got the version that. But that then sparks a conversation with Paul about writing about their childhood.
Yep.
And so Paul then starts on Penny Lane, and John goes to Strawberry Fields Forever. And they were going to do a whole album of songs about Liverpool.
Yep.
And the problem was they hadn't put a single out for ages. They stopped touring. The only two songs ready to go were Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields Forever. That came out as a double A-side single.
Yep.
In the UK, if they released songs on a single, they didn't go onto an album. And so the idea for the Liverpool album was scrapped. And they came up with a new idea, which was Sgt. Pepper. And George Martin's biggest regret was that Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields Forever were not on that album.
Yeah. Yep.
So incredible. So they were getting challenged all the time. One of my favorite ones is I'm the Walrus. So somebody at his old school Quarry Bank had written to John and said, this is so cool. We're now studying Beatles lyrics in our English lessons. And John thought, right, see if you can work out what this one's about then. And wrote down the Walrus.
Yep.
So there are so many of these times when they get challenged. So that the whole thing of not writing love songs and stuff, that really goes back partly to Dylan, but partly to this journalist back in 1964 of challenging John to write about the childhood.
Yeah.
And so that's why all the music songwriting changes so much from 64 onwards. And you can hear within the soundtrack some of A Hard Day's Night. It's more in Help. You can hear those influences started. And you pick a song like You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. That's just John being Dylan.
Right.
It's one of my all-time favorite Beatles songs. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Simple arrangement. It's all about the guitar.
Yeah.
And the lyrics. And that was it. Once they've got that challenge, you can move away from the love song stuff. From I love you, she loves me.
I've got an idea. In our pre-interview with David, I found out we've had you on for a long time, and I think this is a great way to kind of round it out. I found out that David is with the Beatles. I said, what do you know about the Beatles? And you replied to me with, the Beatles are a lot of what if.
Yep.
Oh, you want to play a game of...
So what I want is each of us to come up with a what if question.
Okay.
And ask David what he thought would have happened.
Okay.
So because I brought it up, I'll start.
Let me just say before you do, I just want to contribute, Mike. Your question was, and I'll just say this in my tidbit for that is, one of the things that I loved about as a musician doing it, and why I was heavily influenced by the Beatles was, I mean, obviously I play percussion. I know how to read music, play piano, but for me, it really was the writing. I challenged myself. I wanted to be like the John and Paul. Like, I want to understand how to tell the story with the writing. Like, that was, maybe it was the poetry that I loved about it too, but that was really what tickled me more so than just the music was the writing. So I wanted to say, I agree with you on that one, but yes, go ahead, Bill.
I was going to say, what if the Beatles had continued touring? what do you think would have happened?
Yeah, I think it's an important one. And I think we touched on this a little bit before, is that really the whole purpose for musicians, and particularly for a band, is to perform live. And if you're not performing live, are you still a band? Well, yeah, you're still doing stuff together. But really, that then is just a collective of songwriters. Now, thankfully, they were an amazing collection of songwriters. And one of their biggest problems was, George didn't write his first song until 1963. By the time you get to 1968, and especially 69, George has written so much music that they were all writing so much, creating so much that they couldn't fit it all onto an album. I think the thing with playing live, they wouldn't have spent so much time in the studio. And I think we got the most incredible albums because they weren't spending that time touring. And we've mentioned before about going to Rishikesh and the White Album. One of the beauties of when you went to Rishikesh in India in 68 was, for the first time, they were somewhere completely private, cut off from the outside world, no technology. All they had were their guitars. And for the first time in many, many years, this was almost going back to John and Paul sat in the front room of Paul's house, coming up with songs together with no pressures of anything on them. And they were so free that
pure harmony,
getting on for like 40 songs. In time, so they were suddenly so creative, and they needed that downtime. So if they'd still been touring, it depended if they could have split it to maybe tour for 3 months of a year. I think they could have done both, and maybe then that would have been the glue that kept them together. The biggest problem was not having the technology of the PA systems able to perform what they were doing. But the problem was technically what they were doing in the studio. They couldn't recreate what they were creating in the studio live because that technology wasn't there. So I think you still would have come across the same problem.
There's only a handful of artists I can think that were quite large that didn't enjoy touring. Kate Bush, Rory Gallagher, but they were because they were afraid of flying. The Beatles had no fear of flight.
George did.
No, he did. I was gonna say he did, yeah.
Oh, did George?
Oh, yeah. He
hates it. Oh, okay.
Especially that trip to India when they went, but he's like, it was worth it. He made himself go, but he's like, I don't know about this for the. So it was a long flight too. So
didn't like flying. They had a bad incident on one flight, and they put them off flying forever.
Okay, so Ashley, what is your what if question?
Oh boy, I know what mine is, and you're muted, by the way.
Hey, Ashley, you're muted.
I didn't touch it.
Oh,
okay.
Because Justin probably fucking muted me.
So, I did not. My hands, see my hands? Wait. There you go.
So I've always thought, and this might be low key, I don't really know, this might be kind of weird, but I've always thought that and I've seen like rumors of John and Paul having like a homoerotic friendship.
Oh, here we go.
And I want to know what you think about it. And I don't know. I feel like you're so close with somebody. You spend so much time being gay in that time. You couldn't be gay then. You couldn't. Yeah, especially
Brian Epstein was. Like, he kept it hidden. Yep.
You could not. And in the U.S., I know that they weren't in the U.S., but in the U.S., it was at some point illegal to be a homosexual.
Mm-hmm.
It was illegal in Britain until early 1967.
Yep.
Yeah. So do you, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, they were like in love, but like, I sometimes I do think that they were.
They were in love, but in a bro way.
You think
not
it was
romantic?
yeah.
Yeah. Just not a romantic thing at all. Not at
I
all.
don't.
That wasn't them.
I hear, like, I see the rumors and like everything. I don't know. I've always thought in my head, like, there's no way they didn't kiss a little.
There's jamming sessions. They were not Frenching each other. They were writing music. So let's not, you know.
No, I'm not. Okay, this is the thing, and this is coming from. I've written a lot of music in my life for myself, and I've written a lot of music with people, and I've played a lot of music with different people. And playing music with somebody is probably one of the most intimate things you can do.
Yeah.
Especially writing songs together about love, about loss, about all that stuff is probably one of the most intimate things. I've had me and this guy that I used to hook up with, that we made music together, and making music with him was probably more intimate than probably top 5 most intimate things. So I've always thought, as somebody who's felt that and felt the love that can be felt through making music with somebody, that a lot of these people probably kissed, especially Paul and John.
No, mainly because they stopped writing love songs really end of 1963, early 64. And the love songs they were writing were throwaway pop songs.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, no, the serious love song stuff was between John and Yoko and Paul and Linda.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Paul and John. Also, you have to understand their songwriting partnership was this whole idea of 50-50 collabs. Mm-hmm. That finished at some point in 63. What they would do from that point on was one of them would write about 80% or more of a song, take it to the other, who would maybe help finish off part of the song, so that they would own a song which they'd written completely on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Most of it there, take it to the other as a songwriting partner to finish that off. So they were never like a Goffin and King type thing, right, where you've got a songwriting partnership writing love songs together from scratch. They were never really that kind of songwriting partnership. They're probably it's weird because we talk about them as a songwriting partnership, but normally songwriting partnerships were a lyricist and a melody writer.
Yep.
Yeah, who were working together. So they were never really working from scratch on like a love song or something like that. That's not how they worked. They would develop their own song there and have most of it done, and then would sort of help finish it off.
And they'd have one would start, like, the other would finish, kind of thing. Like, he finished my, you know. Uh-oh.
What if they kissed? Like, what if they kissed once or twice?
Oh, their hands slipped as they're touching the piano keys. Oops, I'm sorry.
What if they kissed once?
My question is, David, did Paul or John have any relationship with Ray and Dave Davies? Because Ray Davies was one of the best songwriters, but he came a couple years later. I wonder if they ever collabed, hung out, played together.
Oh yeah, no, the Kinks supported the Beatles.
Yeah,
some gigs.
Did they?
Yep.
Yeah, and they had a great respect for Ray Davies. And funnily enough, I was talking to a friend of mine today. We were talking about the Kinks and how Ray Davies is probably one of the most underrated songwriters to come out of Britain. Phenomenal.
100%.
Absolutely phenomenal.
I mean, you hear a song like Waterloo Sunset, and you're like, that's a well-written, emotional song. Not that different from Yesterday. Same sort of.
Do you know the original title of the song?
Do you know the original title? The original title of the song?
Liverpool Sunset.
Yep, it wasn't Yesterday. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't even know that. So
yeah, I remember that too. That was not the original. Yep.
That was the conversation I was having with my friend today, because he said to me, we were just talking music as we always do, and he said, I've got these people keep saying to me, Waterloo Sunset was written about Liverpool, and said, no, it wasn't. It's in London. Said, let me just correct you. So I've just recently been to see the musical about the Kinks.
Yep.
Sunday afternoon, absolutely amazing. And
Well,
got a
I
real-
always wondered if the Beatles would have done Ape Man.
Maybe. You never know. It's hard to say.
going down Rocky Raccoon and some of those things they did do.
Yeah, same sort of thing. Yeah, like the parallels I always found between the Kinks and the Beatles were like almost symbiotic.
Yeah, I think what Ray Davies was doing, he was taking that old English music hall variety stuff that they would have listened to growing up and would have seen on TV. So like at the end of 63, the Beatles appear on Sunday night at the London Palladium and the Royal Variety Show. That was our equivalent of Ed Sullivan.
Yep.
That was the peak. If you were going to make it in Britain, you got onto that. That was a variety show. I was still growing up watching variety shows right on in the 1980s, where you had to have a musical act, you had to have a dancing act on the variety show.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
So Paul brings that in like thing like Your Mother Should Know. When I'm 64, that comes from that old music hall.
Yep.
Tradition. That's what Ray Davies was doing, and he was like the most modern. Like it was folk singing, but he had that music hall tradition, and the song, like the lyrics. Actually, I don't know if you ever studied Ray Davies's stuff, but if you love lyrics, go and study Ray Davies.
Oh, he's phenomenal. Yeah,
I love Ray Davies. I've actually been on a Ray Davies and another Ray. I've been on a Ray Davies and a Ray Charles kick.
Oh wow, nice.
That's a good combination there.
Ray Charles is. Wow. I actually did karaoke a couple nights ago, and I did "Hard Times" by Ray Charles, which is just such a good song.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I can't. I know I'm young, but I can't do the whole like Drake shit and I can't. Taylor Swift and all the new gen bullshit. I can't.
Thank you.
It doesn't seem to me. If I'm being so honest, before and I'll stand on this for the rest of my life. For me, new stuff is if you take all of the new artists, they are one million, and you combine all of their talent together, nothing compares to any of the stuff that was in the 60s or the 70s.
Preach it. Yep.
None of it does. And I feel like now it's all about making money, and it's not about making music.
No.
And
that's all it is.
That's why I think I fell in love with older music in general, and why I'll never get off my. I know we were talking about Little Richard,
right?
Cliff Richard is very near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
Wired for Sound is actually one of my like favorite fucking songs ever.
Now,
but I can't do the new music and shit. It's all just seems
the other one in that crowd and of that ilk that I think might have been a contemporary is Eric Burden. Did he chill with Eric?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Now here is I've saved, this is my best for last question, and I love to hear David, because this is talk about history of it, and I know you appreciate it. I can go back for my Beatles fandom for that one there. So what do you think if John's mother Julia, if she hadn't died and she hadn't gone when she did, how would that have changed him at that critical junction going forward? Would that have changed any of the future? That maybe she died as an older woman, like maybe she saw her live a long life, not die young. Would that have changed anything, do you think, for him and what he created as an artist going forward?
I think probably the more important question is, what if Paul McCartney's mum had lived? Julia, John's mum, fully supported everything John was doing.
True.
Bought him his first brand new guitar, let the Quarrymen rehearse in her house.
Yep.
Didn't mind if he missed school, taught him music. You know, he learned so much musically from his mum. So she would have blessed everything that he did. Not so much Mary McCartney.
No, different. Night and day.
Because for Mary, she wanted Paul to be a teacher.
Right.
And he was good at school. So music was big in their family, because Jim McCartney, his dad, had his own band, was still, a really good musician. Lots of the McCartney family were musicians, and they'd have family parties. So music was always important. But I think she would probably have insisted that he got a proper job, and then music could be the hobby, semi-professional, whatever that was going to be.
Yeah.
I think that's the one that could have changed it a lot more than
The other way
Julie.
around.
Yeah, because Julie was really reinforcing everything that John
That
wants
makes
to-
sense. Yeah, and they may have never met even. Maybe they never had that connection, nothing to really, build off of. So
Yeah.
And so, David, it's been absolutely amazing. We could have literally talked for another 2 hours, but
we're going to have you come back, though. We got to have you come back for sure if you're open to it.
I think this is a good way to end it. Everybody state their favorite Beatle and why.
Oh,
And then
I will start.
I'll finish
I will
with
go
one
with.
more.
okay.
I will go with Ringo. I think
Okay.
Ringo is the underappreciated. I think he was a much better drummer than anybody ever gives him credit for.
I second
Learning
that. That's
to
why I
play
started
with
playing
your-
drums. Yeah, that's what was my
Learning
big
to
thing.
play with your left hand and the percussion he took,
Yep.
phenomenal. Now, I can't say I agree with your 16. You're beautiful in your mind. I will.
Well,
take
his
that.
writing was a little different. Yeah.
Brilliant.
But his version of Act Naturally is fantastic. I love
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
So, and Ringo was always the kind of one who was just a little kooky. He was the Keith Moon of his band. He was a little
Richard Starkey. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, a little off
Phenomenal
kilter,
drummer.
but the fact that he's 82, 83, and he's still performing
going.
with his Magic
No, he's
Band,
86.
86.
86.
He was born the same
Whatever
year
it
as
is.
John. They were born in 1940. Yeah, he's 86 years old.
Just turned
I
86.
mean, he's out there
July,
touring
beginning
with
of July,
Colin-
in fact. Yeah.
He's out there touring with Colin Hay and everyone else that he has along with him, and
Just released
God
a new
bless him.
album.
Yeah.
If we ever went to a party with the Beatles, I'd hang out with Ringo. That's the one I would chill with.
Good call. I think we know
Ashley.
what he's going to go with that one, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the corner with Paul.
Ashley, who's yours?
So Paul,
Yeah.
my favorite. I have 4 reasons why.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
First, his musical range.
Mhm.
He wrote Yesterday, Let It Be, Helter Skelter, Blackbird. I think that there are very few songwriters that can move that fluidly between
Mhm.
like tender ballads and then raw rock.
Yep.
So that's number 1. Number 2, his bass playing.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
think he's one of the most inventive bass players in the world, like ever.
Sure.
Ever.
You reinvented the bass.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that for me sells it. But 3, I think his work ethic and
Yeah.
craft, he pushed the band towards more ambitious arrangements
Yeah.
and studio experimentation.
Yeah.
And he kept writing hits well into his solo career and
Yeah.
with Wings. And 4th, his ability to play multiple instruments.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he played the drums, the piano,
Yeah.
the guitar, the bass, and he did it with such conviction across Beatles records. And he filled in when other members weren't around. And I just think
Yeah.
that that's beautiful. So
And
I
you're
would choose
missing.
Paul.
You're missing. He's so cute.
yeah.
Well, I don't know
I'm not
about
really gonna
now,
sit there
but
and-
back
I'm not
in the
really gonna
day.
sit there and bitch about like I don't even care if I was gonna hook up with any one of them. It'd probably be John, but
Oh, well, yeah.
That's- that's if I was gonna hook up with anybody, it'd be Justin. So it's like fine.
So I'm your John. Is that what you're saying? Thank
David,
you.
We'll save you till the end because you're the big.
Yeah.
So, Justin,
This is hard for me because here's the thing. The obvious one I would say I was influenced by Ringo when I played drums, so that's why I have a connection there. And I started really delving into the art form and doing that. It's because whenever if you ever watch people watch me, like I'm only watching him play, so I'm trying to get the schematics, what he's doing. The toss up though, and this is hard. I'm torn between John and Paul because I have such an affinity for both for different. Like if I could mash them together because similar reasons, both great writers, both very artistic, the true form of poetic, genius for that one. I would say I really can't distinguish because they both tickle my creative side different ways. Like, I mean, again,
I'm gonna tickle you.
I lean
Wait,
more
what?
to Paul with he's disciplined. I'm more like that writing that. John tend to take the lazier approach. I'm not like that. But on the flip side of that coin, even in his lazier states, for me, it's the poetic genius that John Lennon had. And again, I say this, and I don't care who wants to disagree. one of the finest lyric writers, I think, in at least the last, 40, 50, 60 years, what can we say, just to be genuine? So I don't know. Can you give me you got to give me a tie there. I really can't distinguish between the two of them. It's between John and Paul, just because of as I said, I fell in love and was dewy-eyed by the poetic writing of everything. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm sorry. I know.
So the question wasn't who are your top 2 Beatles. It was who's your favorite Beatles.
I can't pick though. I mean, I can't.
You got to cut the cord. You got to slice.
You got to go for it. Countdown from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Say it,
John.
There you go.
Was that too difficult? Like,
yeah.
hello?
No, I really hope Paul doesn't watch this. I really don't want to upset anybody. So.
So Dave,
I'm sure he's not going to give a fuck if you pick John. I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know what's only logical what you take next, but that doesn't mean you have to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my favorite will be Ringo, for similar reasons to you, Bill. But because of where I grew up, literally the bottom of the street where he was born was right by my back gate. So
yeah.
I knew that I lived around there till I was 24. I went to the school that he'd gone to, and I just think probably because I play bass, I play guitar, I play piano, I cannot play drums. So I have a respect for drummers, and one of the books that I wrote a few years ago was called Finding the Fourth Beatle, which is about all the drummers in the story, and from Colin, the drummer with the Corman in 56 to the end.
Pete Best.
Okay.
Yep.
I got 23 drummers.
Yeah.
And I found 3 more since.
Did they chill with Buddy Miles? Did they play with him?
No.
Mm-mm.
No,
I don't think so either.
But one of the points of the book was going through and there's some funny stories there. Quite often they wouldn't play one song, or they played one night, one session or something like that. Was coming down to why was it that Ringo that lasted? What was it about him? And for just exactly what you were saying before, Bill, is that I still don't think he gets the credit he deserves being such an inventive drummer.
I think part of why he lasted is he probably didn't put up with their bullshit. It just rolled off his back.
Oh, yeah,
because
absolutely.
He's got that personality, whatever, John, go sit in the corner. I'm going to go whatever.
Yeah, no, he was great. The part of it is natural ability, which people couldn't work out, was, and you sort of mentioned it before, he's naturally left-handed, but he plays a right-handed
kit. Yep.
So the way he goes around the kit. So I interviewed a drummer who's naturally left-handed who played a right-handed kit. And I said, explain it to me. And suddenly it all makes sense. You see Ringo explaining it in an interview, saying the way he worked, because he's so dominant with the left. So
there are some really good YouTube videos out there that break it down.
Oh, yeah.
And when you break it down, it's absolutely brilliant the way he would, get it over. And anybody that's a drummer out there that thinks he's the next Charlie Watts, he's not Charlie Watts. He's not a timekeeper. He's actually.
So what I did was, in preparation for that book, is I went back and listened to all the Beatles albums, and I listened for the drumming, and nobody really does that. But actually, you set out to listen for the drumming.
Yep.
And one of the quotes I always loved was that Ringo said, "Just because there's silence doesn't mean it has to be filled."
Yep.
Which I think is a brilliant thing. And in the end, it comes down to, no matter what you can teach someone technically, maybe technically Ringo wasn't the greatest, most gifted drummer that way, but what you cannot teach is a natural ability, right rhythm at the right time, at the right song. And he had something, and that is a gift. That is not something
because I don't think there was ever a Ringo drum solo. Like, he wasn't trying to be Keith Moon. He was not trying to be Ginger Baker. He was doing his own,
He hated them. They made him do one.
Yeah, he never liked them. I remember that. He said, I never liked doing solos, but they insisted, and he said, fine. But, he's like, I don't want to do this again. I'm not flashy. Like, he saw it as too flashy. He's like, I don't want to be that. I'm not that guy in the front. I don't want to be seen.
Unless he wanted to pull a Buddy Rich. and stand and just kind of.
No, he wouldn't even do that. Really.
Showy.
No, it was never about show. He's the classic epitome of the drummer that if you want to go by standards, that's as basic, but that's the pure drumming that you want. You're not being Neil Peart. You're not being flashy. You're not being, spinning on a tripod going in simple. And that's why his kits were always simple. He didn't even have a standard 5-piece. It was 4, which back then was popular. There was no fifth element to it.
Yeah.
That's what he liked. They asked him, I think one time interview, he said, would you ever play a kit like Pearls or something fancy? Nope. Simple. I want something, basic. That's it.
I think George once bought him an expert set of 2 toms, put it on the kit. He tried it and said, nope,
get rid of it. Take it off. I want it. Yep.
And so then when you think of how basic a kit he had, and then go and listen to all those Beatles songs just for the drumming, that makes it even more incredible. The sounds he could create. And it's like you mentioned before, Justin, about being a percussionist.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the Beatles songs, it's not just about the drums, it was the percussion.
Yep.
It's the extra things he was adding in.
Yep.
Just natural ability. And that's why so many drummers give him the credit.
Yep.
For being inspired by Ringo. And I think that in the last few years, finally, I think he's getting more credit.
Well deserved after he should have had sooner. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even back in the day, like I said, I think it was a George Martin that advocated when they fired Pete Best, and I know Paul and John were fighting for Pete Best. They didn't, not that they had anything against Ringo, but George Martin's like, if you want to keep this going, you got to switch it up, and they brought Ringo in. Ringo was the replacement that, right before things kicked off.
Yeah. Well,
so
for the next one, okay, we can talk about that because Pete Best
David,
really, yeah, I'd love to do that. We'll schedule that. That'd be great.
David, it's been absolutely amazing having you on. I could talk your ear off, and I have 17 questions I didn't ask, and I can save it for next time.
I'm gonna write them down. We'll have the drum off. We'll call it that one. The acoustics behind the Beatles, the untold stories there, kind of thing. Yep.
Yeah.
The reason, I just want to add one thing, which was the reason why we did the What If, right? And this is the shameless plug, is because my most recent book is called The Beatles What If.
Mm-hmm.
And me and my friend, we sat down and we got 70 key moments in Beatles history, right from the start all the way through. And we posed those questions. What if? So like we discussed tonight, what if Brian Epstein didn't die?
Yeah.
Happens.
What I was going to say is there anywhere that anybody who's listening to you now, and I don't know why people wouldn't want to listen to you, where can they hear you, find you, read you, get a hold
in the books
of
you,
documentaries?
Yeah, my website is davidabedford.com. And from davidabedford.com, you can get everything. So my podcast.
Can you tease us a little bit and say if you're working on something else at the moment?
I am, yeah. So I've just started work on a television series for German TV about the Beatles.
Wow. God bless you.
I finished one last year, which is now out in the US, called No Hamburg, No Beatles.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I was the historian for that one.
Okay.
Random was the first one I did. But on the back of doing the No Hamburg, No Beatles, I've now been hired by German TV. So we're working on the television series.
Just remember, Berliner is a donut.
Yes.
Couldn't we all forget? No, of course not. There you go. No, well, Dave, this has been wonderful. Again, yes, we absolutely want to have you come back. We want more. If you guys want more, make sure you stay tuned because we're going to dig deeper. If you guys have questions between now and then too, and you want to submit them in, we'd be happy to take them during the show.
Yep.
You can email us, comment, go on social media, hit us up for that, whatever you want to do.
I was just going to say, Ashley, do you have any closing comments?
No, thank you for coming on, and I want to talk to you more. So
there you go.
I think Ashley is smitten. I can see it in her face.
I'm smitten. So I mean, I saw him first. Just saying.
I found him first. I found him.
No, there's like you're talking about the Beatles, who I love, and you're talking in a British accent, which I also love. So it's like, okay, can I hear you talk more? Thank you. That's so.
I often get them when I go to the States.
If you fly her out, she'll be on your documentary.
The next time we play a game, we'll get to pick which one of us does David like the most. We'll play that game. We can do just for fun.
Now, aren't we?
Yeah, that could be the breakup for us, but no, I'm kidding.
The answer is 1,000% me. Let's cool down, gentlemen. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Well, we appreciate you guys watching, tuning in. Again, we'll have David back. I apologize. I had to flip my phone to put the charging cord on.
I may or may not
flip
have
it back,
books on my
Justin.
shoulder.
Flip it back.
I will. Well, I can't because I'm on the wrong side of it. We're gonna end anyway, but it just puts my camera in the most awkward spot. But we're glad that you could join us. Again, you guys want more, make sure you stay tuned. We are gonna have plenty more to go. We got a lot more great things coming. We have a lot more interviews booked. We've got some fun things coming up. Obviously, the holidays are surprisingly not far away. I know we're coming only barely into the middle of August, but people are advertising for Christmas. So we got a lot of great holiday things coming up for the fall. I know it's tragic. I'm trying not to rush it. I feel so bad for people when they do that. But it segues to say we got a lot more great stuff to come in store. Great holiday episodes. Lots of great more guests. If you want to know more, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, do the thing. You guys know that. So we'll want to see you guys again soon. But thank you very much. And happy Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. Hope this breaks up your week and have great entertainment. We got more great stuff coming for you all on the weekend. And as we, of course, we say, thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it, learned something new. Come back for more and have a great rest of your day. As we say, we can say bid you good night and farewell for now. And of course, until next time, when we see and hopefully each and one of you at the next show. Take care. Cheers. Ta-ta. Anything else would I miss?
Happy hump day.
And of course, in the British sense, cheerio. I should have said that. Boy, my bad. Sorry. Goodbye. Good night.
Have some more, please.
Goodbye. Have a crumpet, some biscuits, and tea. Good day.
Thank you for listening to the What's Up Bro show. Catch all the latest live action on your favorite podcast streaming services, including Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. You can also check out episodes on the studio's official YouTube channel. Subscribe and become a member today. Don't forget to also turn on notifications so you'll know when new content is uploaded. Stay tuned and don't miss a single moment. We love and appreciate all your support. And as always, we will see you at the show.